Only those who suffer from rhinitis and sinusitis know how horrible it is to have to live with it. The headache, the itchy nose, the sneezing, the scratchy throat, the itchy eyes. Terrible. It's even worse having to explain to people that they don't have to stay away because it's not the flu, it's not contagious. But what if I told you that something as simple as castor oil applied in the right way can unclog, relieve pressure, and give you your breath back in minutes? It's not a new trick or a hidden miracle. It's a silent practice that has helped more and more people to breathe better without having to rely on so many medications. Today you'll understand how castor oil can become your most unexpected and most effective ally against nose discomfort. And the best part, you can do it at home safely and in your presence. Breathing is one of those things that we only appreciate when we start having difficulty. And anyone who has had a bout of sinusitis or lives with a blocked nose knows all too well how much it disrupts life. Sleeping badly, waking up tired, a heavy head, the muffled sound of your own voice, the feeling of always being stuffed up inside. And the most frustrating thing is that often the sprays and medicines only seem to solve it for a little while, and then the body goes back to the same pattern, blocked, inflamed, irritated. It was against this backdrop of repetition that many people began to look for alternatives, not out of distrust for medicines, but out of tiredness, because there comes a time when you just want to breathe lightly. And among the alternatives that began to emerge, one in particular caught the eye: the use of castor oil in the nose. Yes, that same thick oil which many people know from other uses, hair, skin, even intestines, has started to appear in reports of people applying a drop around their nostrils and within minutes feeling unexpected relief. It seems curious at first glance. After all, nobody thinks of castor oil as a decongestant, but the logic behind its use is simple. It has anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and highly emollient properties. In other words, it works by softening secretions, deflating tissues, helping the body to release what is trapped, without damaging it, without drying it out, without any rebound effect. This has gradually led to the practice gaining ground. Quietly, at home and accessible. One woman reported that after years of dealing with rhinitis and sinusitis, she decided to try it on impulse. She was having a difficult night. Her nose was completely blocked and her head was throbbing. She took a cotton bud, put a micro drop of castor oil on the edge of her nostril, and took a deep breath. Before long, she felt a slight warmth in the area, and as she described it, it was as if something opened up inside. Not that it was an immediate miracle, but it was a real relief. And that alone, for someone who lives with constant nasal obstruction, is worth a lot. Another man used to using vasoconstrictors since he was young decided to try it out of curiosity. He cut down on the sprays and started applying the oil twice a day, always very carefully, only on the outside of the nostril and at the point between the eyes. Within 3 days, he said that the internal pressure had reduced, so had the pain in her sinuses. And the best thing, she felt that her body no longer depended so much on medication to function. These stories are multiplying, and it's not because the oil has become fashionable, it's because it's working as a rescue, a simpler, more direct, more organic way of dealing with discomfort, and that for those who live trapped in the feeling that breathing well is a privilege, makes a huge difference. What few people knew until they started using it is that castor oil was already used in a similar way in some ancient traditions, not as something mystical, but as a cleansing and clearing agent. In regions where humidity and dust cause many respiratory problems, the use of nasal oils has always been common. And although castor oil isn't the best known among them, its properties put it exactly where it needs to be, at the center of care. But it's not just the physical effect that attracts attention. It's also the gesture, the care of applying something natural with your own hands, instead of just spraying on an industrial spray and going about your day. It changes the way we connect with our bodies, because when you warm a drop of oil between your fingers, smell it, apply it slowly, you're saying to yourself, I'm listening to you. I want to help you breathe better. And that's how this care spreads, not through big campaigns or miraculous promises, but by word of mouth, through referrals among friends, through the story of someone who, having tried everything, decided to try the simplest thing. And was surprised. That's what's happening with castor oil, a rediscovery. The rediscovery of something that has always been there, but which we never thought to use in this way. And now, with the right attention and respect for our own bodies, It's showing that it can be part of a new way of taking care of ourselves. Because in the end, what everyone wants is to be able to take a deep breath. And if it's possible to do this without harm, without addiction, without complications, all the better. A drop, a gesture, a relief. And the body thanks you. The first reaction of anyone who hears about using castor oil in the nose is almost always suspicion. After all, it has a reputation for being thick, dense, and even sticky. At first glance, it doesn't seem like something you'd apply near your nostrils. But if you take this step carefully, you soon realize that the effect it has is completely different from what you might think. It doesn't suffocate, bother, or harm. On the contrary, it softens, soothes, and opens up. All this in an area that for those with sinusitis or congestion is constantly inflamed, irritated, and overloaded. From the body's point of view, the explanation is simple. Castor oil is rich in ricinoleic acid, a substance with a well-documented anti-inflammatory action. When applied near the nostrils, this compound begins to act on the local tissues, and we're not just talking about the outside of the nose, but also the internal cavities, which receive the effect indirectly through the thin, highly vascularized skin. The body's natural heat helps the oil to penetrate gently, and this deep touch reaches the points where inflammation lurks in the sinuses, behind the forehead, around the eyes, and at the base of the nose. The result? A reduction in pressure. That feeling of heaviness inside the head begins to diminish. Excessive mucus production slows down, and the nose previously blocked begins to open without that abrupt pop of a decongestant, but with a lightness that gradually grows. Many people report that their breathing improves in the first few minutes and that their head seems to relax. The voice changes, hearing improves, sleep becomes deeper. There is a curious point that comes up in many reports: the use of castor oil in the evening before bed. People with chronic congestion often have bad nights, waking up several times, breathing through their mouths, waking up with a dry throat, and the feeling that they haven't rested at all. But by gently applying the oil around the nose and temples, this pattern changes. The light warmth of the oil combined with the massage induces the muscles of the face to relax. As a result, the nasal passages open naturally. The result is more continuous sleep, more stable nasal breathing, and waking up with a light head. Something that anyone who lives with sinusitis knows is priceless. Other people use the oil in the morning before leaving the house, especially on cold or dry days when your nose wakes up blocked. A few drops applied with your finger around the nostrils is enough to create a kind of protective barrier that keeps the mucous membrane hydrated for longer. This reduces irritation caused by dust pollution or sudden changes in temperature factors that trigger allergic or sinus crises in many people. What's more, the oil also acts indirectly on the nervous system. The simple act of massaging the face with firm circular movements activates important nerve endings. This sends signals to the brain that the body is safe, relaxed, and welcomed. The effect of this is a subtle drop in stress levels and a general improvement in mood and disposition. It may not seem like much, but when you wake up breathing well and with less tension, your whole day changes. Of course, not everyone feels the same effects at the same speed. Some people report immediate relief. Others feel a gradual improvement over 3 or 4 days. But the common point is that with consistency, the body responds. And it responds profoundly, because unlike common decongestants, which force the airways open and then cause a rebound effect, the oil works in harmony with the body. It doesn't invade, it invites. It doesn't force, it softens. And that makes all the difference. There are also those who use the oil as part of a larger ritual of care. Some people associate the practice with light steam inhalations or warm compresses on the face. Others include an oil massage as part of their relaxation before bed. And then the effect isn't just physical, it's emotional. It's a time to reconnect, a moment of listening. And this transforms care into something that goes beyond the symptom. From a scientific point of view, this practice is still being rediscovered. There are few formal studies on the use of castor oil for nasal congestion, but the principles on which it is based are consistent. We know that chronic nasal inflammation is linked to multiple factors: allergic, infectious, structural, and emotional. We also know that ricinoleic acid in contact with the skin reduces the production of inflammatory prostaglandins. We know that touch reduces cortisol, and that improved microcirculation speeds up the recovery of irritated tissues. Put all this together, and we have not just a hypothesis but a real practice that works for many people. And in the end, perhaps the most valuable thing is not the technical name of what happens, but the real feeling that comes afterwards. A lighter head, a free nose, a clearer mind. That's what keeps the practice going. Because the body is wise. It recognizes when something feels good. And when it feels that silent relief, which comes slowly but stays, it responds with gratitude. The most beautiful thing about this castor oil practice is that it fits into anyone's routine. It doesn't require any new medication or specialist consultation. It just requires presence. A little time in your day dedicated to yourself, to listening to what your body is trying to tell you and offering something in return. And when this gesture is done with care, the result is almost always surprising relief. To begin with, it's important to emphasize castor oil should never be placed inside the nose directly into the nostrils. Safe use is always external in areas around the nose, on the temples, in the space between the eyebrows, and in some cases behind the ears and on the back of the neck. This is because the skin in these areas is thin, sensitive, and rich in nerve endings, which makes it easier to absorb the oil's active compounds without the risk of internal irritation. The first thing you'll need is 100% pure castor oil, preferably cold-pressed and without any chemical additives or fragrances. You can buy it in pharmacies, health food stores, or even larger markets. Always check the label. The cleaner and more natural the product, the better your body will respond. The ideal time to apply it can vary. Some people prefer at night when the body is already slowing down and the effect can last throughout sleep. Others prefer in the morning, especially if they suffer from a blocked nose when they wake up. There is no right time. The most important thing is constancy. Apply regularly, paying attention to the signals your body gives you. With clean hands, pour a small drop of castor oil onto the tip of your index finger. Warm the oil by gently rubbing your fingers together, just to make it more fluid. With slow movements, apply it around the nostrils at the outer base, where the skin is more resistant. Avoid touching the oil to the inner mucosa. Then move your fingers to the area between the eyebrows, applying light, circular pressure. Then apply a little to the temples, massaging gently, feeling the skin warm up slightly. If you like, you can repeat this process behind the ears and at the base of the neck. These are reflex points that influence the circulation of the head and also relieve pressure from the sinuses. The massage should last between 3 and 5 minutes in total. It's not about rushing or pushing too hard. It's about being there in that touch. Many people prefer to lie down afterwards. They put a towel over the pillow and let the oil work while they relax. Some even use warm compresses on their face to intensify the effect. All it takes is a clean cloth dampened with hot water, lightly wrung out and placed over the forehead or cheeks for 2 to 3 minutes. The gentle steam helps the oil to penetrate better and also makes it easier to clear the airways. The recommended frequency for beginners is once or twice a day. If it's a more acute case, such as during a sinus crisis, you can repeat every 12 hours for 3 days. But always with caution. The oil should not be used as a substitute for medication in severe infections or when there is a fever, pus-filled discharge, or severe pain. In these cases, it is used as a support, not as the main treatment. And it's always worth consulting a health professional if you have any doubts. And here's a very important point: this practice works because it involves more than the oil. It involves you, your time, your listening, your willingness to stop for 5 minutes in the middle of the rush and say to your body, "I see you, I'm going to take care of you." And the body responds to this. It relaxes, breathes better, releases tensions that were trapped not only in the sinuses but all over the face, neck and shoulders. Over time, this application stops being an emergency relief and becomes a ritual, a habit, something you do naturally before going to bed or waking up. And then the result goes beyond a stuffy nose. You start to feel that your head is lighter, your day flows better, stress is reduced, because when you breathe better, your whole body works better. One man said this after 2 weeks of using the oil: "The congestion has improved, but what I liked most was that I stopped waking up with that full head feeling. I feel clearer. And that kind of feeling is priceless, because it changes the relationship you have with your body. It's no longer a fight against the symptom, but about taking care of the source of the discomfort. If you want to extend the benefits even further, combine the practice with other simple habits. Drink more water throughout the day. Reduce your consumption of dairy products. If you're sensitive, open the windows to ventilate the house. Use more ergonomic pillows. These are small things that together make the body work as it should. But if we're going to start somewhere, let's start here. A drop of oil, a touch on the face, a little lighter breathing. Sometimes that's all you need to change everything. Breathing should be simple, but when your nose gets blocked, everything gets complicated. Your sleep, your mood, your whole day. And sometimes it's in a drop of oil, in a calm gesture, that a fresh start can be made. Castor oil doesn't promise a miracle, but it does offer something. Rare, real relief with softness and presence. Now tell me, have you ever tried to take care of your breathing like this? Have you ever used this oil for anything similar? Let us know in the comments about your experience or your questions, because what relieves you can inspire someone else too. And if this video has brought you clarity, share it with anyone who's fighting with their nose. Subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and remember, the body speaks softly, but when we listen, it thanks us lightly. Sometimes all that's needed is to stop, touch your face, and say breathe. Until the next video.